Law 1 of the 48 Laws of Power establishes a foundational principle that governs hierarchical relationships: never outshine the master. This law warns that making your superiors appear less brilliant than yourself, even unintentionally, is among the most dangerous mistakes you can make in any power dynamic. The core principle is deceptively simple: those above you in the hierarchy must always feel comfortably superior. If you display too much talent, wit, or competence in their presence, you risk triggering insecurity, resentment, and fear. Masters, bosses, and patrons may consciously appreciate talent, but unconsciously, they harbor a deep need to feel that they remain the most capable person in the room. Outshining them, even through genuine achievement, can transform admiration into suspicion and favor into hostility. Green positions this law first deliberately. It serves as the gateway to understanding power dynamics because it addresses the fundamental human ego and the anxiety that comes with status. Before you can accumulate power, you must first avoid the primary way people lose it, by threatening those who already possess it. This law is defensive and offensive simultaneously. It protects you from the envy of the powerful while teaching you how to navigate upward mobility without triggering sabotage. The wisdom here is ancient: apparent submission often conceals actual advancement. By making your master shine more brightly, you create a safe space for your own growth. The law doesn't advocate for genuine inferiority, but rather for strategic presentation, allowing others to bask in the spotlight while you build your foundation in the shadows. The most striking historical illustration of Law 1 comes from the court of Louis XIV of France, and involves two men whose fates diverged dramatically based on how they managed their brilliance in the king's presence: Nicolas Fouquet and Jean-Baptiste Colbert. Nicolas Fouquet served as Louis XIV's finance minister and was, by all accounts, extraordinarily capable. He had amassed considerable wealth and possessed impeccable taste. In 1661, Fouquet made a fatal error. He invited the young king to a spectacular celebration at his newly completed chateau at Vaux-le-Vicomte. The estate was magnificent, more splendid than anything the king himself possessed. The gardens, designed by André Le Notre, were breathtaking. The chateau's architecture was revolutionary. Fouquet commissioned a play by Molière, featured music by Lully, and served a feast of unprecedented extravagance. He even had fountains that outperformed those at the royal residencies. The evening culminated with fireworks that spelled out Fouquet's motto in the night sky. Fouquet believed he was honoring his king. In reality, he had committed an unforgivable transgression. He had demonstrated that he possessed greater wealth, taste, and power than Louis XIV himself. The king's jealousy was immediate and absolute. Within weeks, Fouquet was arrested on charges of embezzlement. His property was seized, and he spent the rest of his life imprisoned. Louis XIV took Fouquet's artists, architects, and designers, including Le Notre and Laval, and used them to build Versailles, ensuring that no subject would ever again possess anything remotely comparable to the king's magnificence. Jean-Baptiste Colbert, by contrast, understood Law 1 intuitively. Serving in a similar capacity to Fouquet, Colbert was equally talented but infinitely more strategic. He carefully orchestrated his service so that every success appeared to originate from the king's wisdom. When presenting ideas, he framed them as extensions of Louis's vision. He lived modestly, dressed conservatively, and ensured that any glory reflected upward toward the throne rather than toward himself. Colbert was instrumental in building France's economic power and the magnificence of Versailles itself, yet he always positioned himself as merely the instrument of the king's genius. He prospered, gained influence, and died wealthy and honored, not despite his brilliance, but because he knew how to dim his light in the king's presence. The contrast is instructive. Both men were competent, both served the same master, but only one understood that the appearance of power matters more than its reality when you stand before someone who can destroy you. In Renaissance Florence, there lived a master painter named Benedetto who ran one of the city's most respected workshops. He had built his reputation over decades, and his frescoes adorned the walls of important churches and palazzas throughout Tuscany. Benedetto's workshop employed several apprentices, but none showed as much promise as a young man named Lorenzo. Lorenzo possessed extraordinary natural talent. His understanding of perspective was intuitive, his use of color innovative, and his speed remarkable. Within 2 years of joining the workshop, he could complete in days what took other apprentices weeks. Benedetto initially praised Lorenzo's abilities and gave him increasingly important tasks. The turning point came when a wealthy merchant commissioned Benedetto to paint a large altarpiece for his family's chapel. It was a prestigious commission that would be seen by Florence's most influential citizens. Benedetto designed the overall composition and began the central panel himself, but he assigned Lorenzo to paint several of the surrounding panels depicting saints and angels. Lorenzo threw himself into the work with passionate intensity. He studied the fall of light, experimented with new techniques for rendering fabric, and created figures of such vitality and grace that they seemed ready to step out of the frame. When the scaffolding came down and the altarpiece was revealed, the patron was delighted, but not with the central panel. "Master Benedetto," the merchant said, walking closer to examine the work, "your design is solid and your execution competent, but these surrounding figures, they're transcendent. Who painted these angels? The drapery, the expressions, the way the light seems to glow from within, this is the work of a true master." Benedetto felt ice in his stomach. "My apprentice Lorenzo assisted with those sections, under my close supervision, of course." Word spread quickly through Florence's artistic circles. Patrons began asking specifically if the young talent from Benedetto's workshop would be working on their commissions. Some even inquired whether Lorenzo might be available for independent projects. Benedetto watched his own reputation become a footnote to his apprentice's rising star. Within weeks, the workshop's atmosphere changed. Benedetto stopped giving Lorenzo important assignments, relegating him to grinding pigments and preparing panels, tasks normally given to the newest apprentices. He criticized Lorenzo's work publicly and harshly. When Lorenzo asked for guidance, Benedetto was dismissive. The master who had once praised him now seemed to find fault with everything he did. Lorenzo, confused and hurt, confided in an older apprentice named Paolo, who had worked in the shop for many years without incident. "You made a mistake," Paolo told him quietly. "You painted too well. You made the master look ordinary by comparison, and in front of the very people whose opinions matter most to his livelihood. Master Benedetto can't destroy your talent, but he can certainly prevent you from using it." "But I only did my best work," Lorenzo protested. Isn't that what he wanted? He wanted competence that made his own work look better, not brilliance that made it look worse, Paolo explained. "Watch how I work. I'm skilled enough to be useful, but I always leave small imperfections, nothing that damages the final piece, but enough that anyone comparing our work will see that the master is superior. I've been here 10 years, and I'll likely be here 10 more, comfortable and trusted." Lorenzo refused to dim his abilities. Within the year, he left Benedetto's workshop, and the master used his influence to ensure that no other major workshop in Florence would take him. Lorenzo eventually left the city entirely, his potential unfulfilled, while Paolo remained in Benedetto's workshop, safe in his studied mediocrity. The story illustrates a harsh truth: talent alone is not enough. In any hierarchical relationship, the perception of who stands where in the order of merit matters more than the reality. Lorenzo's mistake wasn't in being talented, it was in displaying that talent so brilliantly that it diminished his master in the eyes of those whose opinions shaped reputations. He forgot that in a workshop, as in a court, there can be only one star, and it must always be the person in charge. The foundation of Law 1 rests on a fundamental aspect of human psychology, the fragility of the ego, especially among those who have achieved power or status. Masters, bosses, and leaders have often struggled to reach their positions, and they guard their status jealously. Their identity becomes intertwined with their perceived superiority. When you outshine them, you don't simply demonstrate competence, you trigger a primal fear of displacement and irrelevance. Key applications. 1. Strategic subordination. The art lies not in being mediocre, but in making your excellence serve your master's glory. Frame your achievements as extensions of their wisdom. When presenting ideas, say building on your insight, or as you suggested, "I explored this further," this allows you to contribute brilliantly while ensuring credit flows upward. Your master feels like a genius for having you, rather than threatened by your presence. 2. Controlled visibility. Shine brightly, but not in the same room as your master. Excel in domains they've assigned to you, but never compete in their areas of pride. If your boss prides himself on strategic thinking, demonstrate your brilliance in execution. If they value creative vision, excel at implementation. Create complementary excellence, not competitive excellence. 3. The art of timing. Early in a relationship with a superior, subordination is critical. You're unproven and vulnerable. As trust builds and your value becomes undeniable, you can gradually expand your visibility, but never carelessly. Even after years of loyal service, a single moment of outshining can unravel everything. Fouquet served Louis for years before his fatal error. 4. Read the room and the ego. Not all masters are equally insecure. Some leaders are secure enough to genuinely celebrate subordinates' talents. These rare individuals see your success as reflecting well on their judgment and leadership. However, assume insecurity until proven otherwise. The cost of miscalculation is too high. Watch how your master responds when others receive praise. Do they celebrate it or subtly diminish it? This reveals everything. Critical nuances. The double bind. Here lies the law's complexity. You must be excellent enough to be valuable, but not so brilliant that you become threatening. Too little competence and you're disposable, too much visibility and you're dangerous. The sweet spot is indispensable competence delivered with tactical humility. When to violate the law. There are moments when outshining is unavoidable or even necessary. When your master is falling, if their power is collapsing regardless of your actions, maintaining subordination may chain you to a sinking ship. This requires exquisite judgment of timing. When you're preparing to leave, if you're establishing yourself independently, you eventually must step into the light. But do this only when you've secured your own base of power and can withstand their retaliation. When the hierarchy is genuinely collaborative, in some rare modern environments, certain creative partnerships, academic collaborations, or entrepreneurial teams, mutual excellence is expected and celebrated. Even here, proceed cautiously. The apprentice's dilemma. For those learning a craft, this law creates tension. You must develop genuine excellence to eventually become a master yourself, yet displaying that excellence prematurely can destroy your opportunities to learn. The solution: develop your skills thoroughly, but reveal them gradually and strategically. Think of your talent as capital to be invested wisely, not spent recklessly. Common pitfalls. 1. Knave it. Believing that pure merit will protect you is the most dangerous delusion. Many talented people have been crushed by this assumption. Excellence creates value, but it also creates envy. 2. Unconscious competition. Sometimes outshining happens through habit or enthusiasm rather than calculation. You're so excited about an idea or accomplishment that you forget to frame it properly. Develop the discipline to pause before speaking or acting in your master's presence. Ask yourself, how will this make them feel? 3. False humility. There's a difference between strategic deference and obsequious weakness. Masters want capable subordinates, not sycophants. The goal is to make them feel superior, not to grovel. Maintain your dignity while directing glory upward. 4. Ignoring the law in modern contexts. Many believe this law is outdated, a relic of monarchies and rigid hierarchies. This is a grave mistake. The law operates wherever power differentials exist: corporations, academic departments, creative industries, even friendships and families. The forms change, but the dynamics remain. The deeper strategy. Ultimately, Law 1 teaches patience and perspective. If you're truly talented, your time will come. But it comes more surely if you haven't made enemies of those who could have been patrons. The master who feels secure in your presence becomes your advocate. The master who feels threatened becomes your saboteur. Let your master take credit for your ideas today. Build their confidence in you. When they eventually fall, retire, or promote you into their position, you'll have the foundation to shine freely. Those who rush to outshine often find themselves outmaneuvered by those patient enough to wait. At its core, Law 1 reveals an uncomfortable truth about human nature: our sense of self-worth is profoundly comparative. We measure ourselves not against absolute standards, but against those around us, especially those we consider our peers or subordinates. When someone beneath us in the hierarchy demonstrates superiority, it doesn't simply highlight their excellence, it fundamentally threatens our self-concept. This isn't mere vanity, it's existential anxiety. The master who has built their identity around being the most capable, the most creative, or the most intelligent experiences a subordinate's brilliance as a form of symbolic death. You're not just good at what you do, you're erasing the very foundation of their self-worth. They may rationally understand that your competence benefits them, but the emotional brain doesn't process it that way. The emotional brain sees a rival, a usurper, a threat. Green's genius in placing this law first is that it forces us to confront an essential paradox of power: the powerful are often the most psychologically vulnerable. They have the most to lose. Their position requires constant validation, and anything that undermines that validation, even unintentionally, triggers defensive responses that can range from subtle sabotage to outright destruction. The social contract of hierarchy. Every hierarchical relationship contains an unspoken contract. The subordinate provides competence and loyalty, the superior provides opportunity and protection. But there's a crucial codicil that's rarely articulated: the subordinate must also provide the superior with a sense of their own importance. This is the hidden tax on ambition. In pre-modern societies, this contract was explicit and enforced through rigid protocols, bowing, specific forms of address, sumptuary laws that prevented lower classes from dressing above their station. Modern organizations claim to have abolished these formalities in favor of meritocracy, but the psychological dynamics remain unchanged. We've simply made the rules invisible, which makes them more dangerous because people violate them unknowingly. Modern applications. The corporate landscape. In today's workplace, Law 1 manifests constantly, though in subtler forms than in Louis XIV's court. The meeting phenomenon: you're in a strategy meeting, and you have a brilliant insight that could solve a major problem. Your CEO has been circling around the issue without clarity. If you blurt out your solution, especially if it's obviously better than what's been proposed, you risk making your CEO look incompetent in front of the team. The skillful approach: phrase it as a question that leads them toward the insight. Have we considered whether X might address the Y problem you identified earlier, allowing them to discover the solution themselves? The innovation trap. Many companies claim to want innovative employees, but what they often want is controlled innovation that makes leadership look visionary. The engineers at Xerox PARC invented the graphical user interface, the mouse, and Ethernet, revolutionary technologies. But they outshone their management so thoroughly that executives couldn't understand or appreciate what they'd created. The innovations were eventually commercialized by Apple and other companies. The lesson: innovation must be packaged in ways that make your superiors look prescient for supporting it. The visible success problem: you've dramatically exceeded your quarterly targets while your boss met theirs only marginally. In the performance review, their boss praises you effusively while noting your manager's more modest results. You've just created a dangerous dynamic. Your manager now associates your success with their own diminishment. The strategic move: share credit generously, publicly attribute your success to your manager's guidance, and find ways to make your achievements boost their metrics. The academic and creative fields. These environments are particularly treacherous because they're explicitly organized around individual brilliance and achievement, yet they maintain strict hierarchies. The graduate student's tightrope: a doctoral student who publishes groundbreaking research can threaten their advisor's sense of intellectual primacy. The student must navigate between producing work good enough to launch their career and framing it so that the advisor feels like the architect of their success. Those who fail this navigation often find themselves with tepid recommendation letters or blocked from key opportunities. The protégé problem. In creative fields, writing, music, art, film, protégés frequently surpass their mentors in talent or recognition. The relationship often ends badly. The mentor who once championed you becomes your critic, subtly undermining your work or claiming that you've abandoned the principles they taught you. The wise protégé praises their mentor publicly even as they diverge artistically, creating enough distance to develop their own voice while maintaining the appearance of grateful continuity. Social media and personal branding. The digital age has created new arenas where Law 1 operates. The workplace social media paradox: you're encouraged to build your personal brand, but if your LinkedIn following or thought leadership surpasses your boss's, you create tension. You must appear successful enough to reflect well on your organization while not becoming more visible than those above you. The influencer economy: even in spaces that seem democratized, hierarchies form. Smaller creators who collaborate with larger ones must carefully manage their growth. Grow too quickly or gain too much attention, and the larger creator may end the relationship, seeing you as competition rather than collaboration. Friendship and personal relationships. Law 1 isn't confined to professional hierarchies. The success gap: when friends occupy different levels of achievement, the relationship strains. If you're struggling while your friend thrives, their success, especially if they discuss it freely, can feel like an implied judgment. Emotionally intelligent people modulate their victories around those who are vulnerable, not from dishonesty but from compassion and social awareness. Parental dynamics: adult children who significantly outpace their parents' achievement sometimes find the relationship complicated by unspoken resentment. Parents may feel their own accomplishments diminished or their guidance retrospectively invalidated. Successful children often learn to emphasize how their parents' sacrifices and wisdom enabled their success. Ethical considerations and limitations. This law raises profound ethical questions. Is it manipulative to deliberately dim your light? Does it perpetuate unjust hierarchies by telling people to accept their subordination? Should we work to create environments where the law becomes obsolete? Green himself offers no moral judgments. He describes power dynamics as they exist, not as they should be. But we must think critically about when to apply this law and when to resist it. When the law enables injustice, in systems of oppression, racial, gender-based, or class-based hierarchies, Law 1 has historically been used to keep marginalized people in their place. The demand that women, people of color, or lower classes never outshine their superiors has perpetuated inequality. In these contexts, violating Law 1 becomes a moral imperative, even at personal cost. When applying the law enables your own growth, there's nothing inherently wrong with strategic humility when it serves your long-term development. If you're learning from a genuine master, allowing them to shine while you build your skills is both pragmatic and appropriate. When the law perpetuates mediocrity, organizations where Law 1 reigns absolutely become sclerotic. The most talented people leave or stop trying. Innovation dies. Sometimes the health of an institution requires someone brave enough to outshine a failing leader, accepting the personal cost for the collective good. The modern paradox. We live in an age of conflicting imperatives. We're told to be authentic, to develop our personal brand, to stand out, to disrupt, to be confident. Simultaneously, we operate within hierarchies that punish those who threaten the people above them. This creates enormous psychological stress, particularly for ambitious people. The resolution isn't to abandon ambition or authenticity, but to develop what might be called strategic authenticity, being genuinely yourself while remaining aware of context and power dynamics. You can be brilliant without being threatening. You can contribute without dominating. You can shine in ways that illuminate others rather than casting them into shadow. The long game. Perhaps the deepest interpretation of Law 1 is that it teaches the difference between quick wins and lasting success. Anyone can have a moment of brilliance that makes their boss look bad. The question is, then what? You've had your moment, but you've also created an enemy with power over your career, your opportunities, your future. The truly sophisticated approach to power isn't about suppressing your abilities, it's about deploying them with exquisite timing and framing. You build relationships where your success and your superior's success become intertwined. You create situations where making them shine requires them to elevate you. You cultivate enough trust that when the time comes for you to step into greater visibility, they champion you rather than sabotage you. This requires patience that our culture of instant gratification makes difficult. We want recognition now. We want credit for our ideas immediately. We want to be seen for who we truly are at every moment. But power accumulates slowly, through careful relationship building, through strategic subordination that builds trust, through waiting for the right moment to shine rather than seizing every moment indiscriminately. Conclusion: the wisdom of shadows. Law 1 ultimately teaches that there is wisdom in shadows, in the spaces beside the spotlight rather than within it. This doesn't mean accepting permanent obscurity, it means understanding that the path to sustainable power often runs through temporary subordination. The Master's favor, earned through making them feel secure and superior, provides the foundation from which you eventually build your own mastery.